welcome back to another episode of the Prosperity Playbook. Thank you so much for tuning in. You've got three great friends here that all decided to have deeper conversations about lessons that we learned the hard way because I think that our world needs a little bit more of that today. If you are watching on YouTube, you might notice that we are in a different space. Renee has built a beautiful pod lab for us in her home, and we are extremely thankful to be in a new beautiful space. So wanted to say, yeah.
Yeah, it's very nice. I actually need a blanket here because she has air conditioning.
We are going to be talking about workplace boundaries today. This is something that doesn't necessarily just come into play if you're going into the office. I think this is an important topic, whether you're working from home or even if you are attending networking events or if you're on the board of a nonprofit or have any sort of professional relationships.
Absolutely. I think it's a good topic. And I think kicking it off with just working from home versus working in the office, for me, that is one of the reasons I actually really like working from home, but it's also a detriment as well, because when I would go into the office, there was a lot of times where coworkers would come to me and they would ask, hey, can you help me get this loan done? Or have you ever run into this before? Do you know how you find the guideline on this? Or how was your weekend or whatever it was? And I found that I would spend hours of my day helping other people, which I love doing, but at the same time that I wasn't helping my customers as much because so much of my time is being taken up by that. So for me, it's one of the reasons I actually kind of like working from home. Doesn't mean people still can't reach out to me for help because I definitely still love doing that. It's just kind of made more boundaries around it where it used to be, it was like the easy answer, like just go to Renee's office and she'll tell you how to do it. And now I think people try to look it up themselves first and then call me if they can't figure it out.
I decided to work from home too. So our office is downtown, so it's hard to get parking. And I have always been pretty structured with my time working at home. And I like the ability to be able to get the laundry done at the same time or water the yard. But I start the end of the day by creating a calendar of tasks for myself to do the next day report. And I can get it all done that way as long as I'm staying on task at home.
You know what? That's actually a whole different level of workplace boundaries. And that was something that I had to learn the hard way. I used to do the same thing where I would try to do laundry during the day. I try to start dinner. I try to do all these things. And then I found that my actual work time wasn't efficient. So I actually had to draw myself some really hard boundaries around that. Like between 8 and 5, I'm not doing that stuff unless it's like a super rare occasion. But I really had to dial in and say, this is your work time. And for me, like one of the reasons I like working from home is because I don't have to fix my hair. I don't have to decide what to wear. I don't have to drive to town. So I like all of those things. But I also know a lot of people that like to get dressed up, like to fix their hair because that is their boundary on when they start and stop their workday. Because otherwise it's super easy to wander out into my office at 6 a.m. and just sit down and start working and then already know what happened to the day.
Yep, I had to apologize to my neighbor today. Brush my hair yet. But I noticed that I do hate picking out clothes, but I enjoy it at the same time. If I had to do it every day, I don't think I would enjoy it.
Some days I'm really productive when I'm working from home, and some days my house is just the cleanest that it's ever done before. I guess I get no work done, but for me, a big part of the reason why I like going into the office is the socialization aspect of it. Sometimes I like being surrounded by other people who are working really hard and who are, going through the grind as well because it makes me more productive. And sometimes, just like you said at the beginning, Renee, I get very distracted and you end up talking about non-work things or end up, people are coming in and asking questions and it's interrupting your workflow and hours go by and you're just kind of hitting setback after setback. So I think that is a very specific, important boundary to talk about is, how can you let people know when you're available and when you're not available, whether those are your friends at work or if it's just coworkers. How can you establish time where this is my work time and yes, I'm available to answer questions, but not right now. And two ways that I have done that, sometimes I think honestly a physical boundary can be really impactful. Think about like wearing headphones on an airplane. That's a typical sign that you don't want to talk to the person that's next to you, right? Whereas in the office, we literally have started using sticky notes that we just put on our door that will say, and a power hour available at 2 p.m. or whatever. So that your coworkers can immediately come by. They see that and maybe they pencil it in to come bug you at 2 o'clock instead. That has been something that's really helped me a lot. And another physical boundary that can be really helpful if you are getting overwhelmed by your coworkers is like go for a solo walk during your lunch break and actually physically remove yourself from the space for a little bit. I know that has helped me mentally reset to be able to come back, get back into the right headspace to be productive at work.
That's goals for me big time. Every day I kind of think, you know what? I should walk the dogs at noon. I should just actually take a break. And then I get so dove into my day and I get overwhelmed with a bunch of new loan applications and everything's a rush and it just doesn't happen. And that is a boundary I would really love to create for myself because I've read a lot of research around how you can only be productive for so many hours at a time. And then it's the law of diminishing return. Like you start to not be as focused. You can't think as clearly, but getting up, moving your body resets that. So I think that is a really important boundary that I really have goals to do that.
To our point earlier with doing the things like the laundry at home, I actually have to put them on my calendar at a certain time. So I think about, well, it'll take me this long to do this task, and then I need to talk to this person and give yourself a little more leeway because inevitably that conversation will be longer. And then I got to take the meat out to defrost for dinner, or I've got to go move the sprinkler or start the laundry. And that way I have a little break.
Oh, that a lot of the people that I talk to that work from home and do it successfully, while, you know, like stay-at-home moms that work from home too. I think being able to give yourself an intentional break like that, where like laundry is my favorite chore, so that doesn't feel like work to me. And so being able to take a break to intentionally switch the laundry, I think is healthy. But a lot of people, that doing the laundry then leads to vacuuming, which then leads to doing the dishes, which, you know, it keeps going on and on. So I think if you are scheduling it out to where you're going to go do the one thing and then go back to work, that's healthy, but it is easy to get sucked right into it as well.
I've had to tell myself, nope, you're not doing that.
Yeah, that is a really good point, actually. I do feel like I call it puttering. Like I'll start on one project and I'll be like, oh, look at that. I need to deal with that. And then like, oh, look at that. And then I halfway finish all these projects. And so I don't let myself do that during the week when I'm working. If I'm home on the weekend, that's the kind of stuff that happens to me. But also, Britt, you just said that laundry is your favorite chore.
It is.
Blew my mind a little bit. I know more. And also, have I got a sample?
I don't. Something about it, just being able to see the clear before and after of a pile of dirty laundry and then everything hung up in the closet. I even go as far as a lot of people will wash their clothes and then their clothes stay washed like in the hamper for a week. Nope, mine goes straight from the dryer to being hung up.
So does mine. Yeah, I had hangers above my washing machine. I did that is one of the things that makes me not hate it so much. But
I do have a file of putting laundry above the bed because there was not time to do that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty typical.
yeah. Well, to kind of circle back there, I want to go back to what you said about sometimes coworkers being inspirational for you. And I think that is a huge thing because there are going to be people that are going to build you up and there are going to be people that are going to drag you down. And I think it really depends on the mindset of where they're at. Like I'm in the mortgage business and right now there is a lot of negativity around it because the market's hard and rates are high and blah, blah, blah. And if it is so easy, if everybody around you is saying that, to go right back into that, like, poor me, like, there's no loans out there. And that is just straight not true. Like, there are a shitload of loans out there. There's a ton of real estate being transacted right now. But if you think that there isn't, then you're right. And if you think that there is then you're right. And so it's been important for me to find those right people.
I think negativity breeds negativity for sure.
Absolutely, it does. And so does positivity. Exactly. So I think one of the things for me, one thing that was kind of disappointing to me, I felt like there was a lot of people that were cheering for me as I was growing my business. And I really, like, they were trying to help and support me. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I, like, passed the level of where those people were at, then they kind of stopped cheering for me. And I mean, no, I probably am going to get in trouble for saying this if somebody, certain people listen to this, but I found it to be really true. And one of the things that I have had to learn is to find other people outside. I mean, I live in a small town. I live in Bozeman, Montana. I don't have a lot of people that are doing more than what I'm doing here. And so I had to find a mastermind group. And that was one of the best things I ever did for myself, was put myself in a situation where everybody was crushing it more than me. And I had to level up to feel like I could be a part of that group. And I did.
Mm-hmm. Well, and kind of along those same lines of, negativity breeds negativity. Something that I have struggled with is I have worked with some of my best friends. And then what happens is we will go out, for drinks, or we'll be hanging out on the weekend. And all of a sudden we're like in this toxic negative spiral talking about work and what we're so frustrated with, or a specific coworker that annoys us or whatever, because it's something that we obviously have in common. But
Yeah.
that's not benefiting either one of us. And that has been something that we have really had to be intentional about, saying, hey, can we vent for 5 minutes or something that I just like have been really frustrated about and I want to get off my chest, but then let's set the timer, and after 5 minutes, no more work talk. And if we do it like that, it's healthy and we kind of can laugh about it and have a safe space to talk about it, but it doesn't lead to an entire afternoon of work talk. Nobody wants to talk about work that much while you're off the clock,
Actually, I don't know if that's true. So maybe that's because I don't have coworkers that I talk to all the time, but we were in Arizona a couple weeks ago for one of my coworkers' 50th birthdays, and I don't see those guys very much anymore. And my coworker Shannon and I were like laying in bed one morning because there's a whole bunch of girls over sharing this bed, and we sat there for like 2 hours and just talked about mortgage stuff. And I turned over and I was like, I'm having so much fun talking about mortgages with you. She started laughing. And I was like, no, for real. Like in all of our industries, I'm sure, like there's not many people that get what you do. Like I can come home and tell my husband and my daughter, like, oh my gosh, this happened in my day. And they're like, that doesn't mean anything to me, because they don't know the ins and outs of your world. So the only people that do are those coworkers. So there is value in that, and feeling validated and feeling heard. And I literally had so much fun just talking to all the mortgage people. This was like Mortgage People Central. I think there were 2 people on the entire trip that were not mortgage people. And it was so much fun to just compare notes with people and talk about what's going on and get people fired up. Like that's something that I love to do, is show people the opportunity in a market. Like somebody that's kind of dragging, I'm like, bro, like you need to see the opportunity in this. Like this is such a good market for buyers. So we're going to talk about that on an upcoming episode. So by the way, if this is helpful or you're enjoying this, please please subscribe, please give us a review, and share this with your friends so that our goal is to share this knowledge with as many people as we can. So we will continue to talk about that, but helping other people see the opportunity in this market gets me fired up. The more people I can get excited, then that refuels me and fills my cup up to give back more.
Yeah, I just think it's so important to avoid engaging in someone's bad mood or in negativity. It's so important to, okay, maybe a coworker is really struggling with their job and they're coming to you just venting about, oh, I don't know if this is for me. Maybe they just haven't been having conversations with the right people, and you can be the spark of light that, sends them on the right trajectory. And so I think that's a big boundary that I have had to really lean into. I am a very positive person. I'm such an optimist. My best friend says I have resting nice space. And so for a lot of my coworkers, I have been that person where when they're having a rough time, they'll come talk to me. But I have found myself sometimes getting sucked into that and then feeding into the negativity, and then that's not helping anybody.
I wake up naturally happy, and I've had to tell people I can't do your negativity, right?
Well, I think there's a real big distinction there. If somebody's coming to you for genuine help, or they want to be pulled up, they want to be around your positive energy, great. If somebody's coming to you because they just straight want to bitch and they don't want to fix the problem and they want you to commiserate and they want to like spiral down, I'm not here for that. And I'm not saying you have to be positive every day. I think that's unrealistic. I mean, I have a 16-year-old daughter. It's one of the conversations we have. Like, you don't have to be happy all the time. You just can't live in the shitty cool down there. Like, figure out what it takes to get yourself out of that and move on. Whether it's going for a walk, like we said, or music, or drinking a glass of water, or whatever it is, you have to figure out how to pull yourself out of that, and you have to want to get out of that. I think that's the biggest key.
I was thinking about in this conversation with workplace boundaries. There's another little thing that I've done in the past when I have worked in an office and paid attention to somebody that was producing at a higher level and was operating at a higher level and listening to how they conducted their boundaries in conversations with clients. And then there's a lot there.
I think that's a good point too. I have assistants in Washington. I have an assistant in Texas, and Ryan, my Texas assistant, is new and he's doing great. But I also feel like there would be so much value. I just need flying to Bozeman for a couple of weeks just so he could sit and listen to me and talk and go through things. I mean, we do a lot of Teams calls and stuff like that, but there is that value in being face to face. And, I kind of started the call saying, I like working from home. I don't like everybody interrupting me. That's not really what I mean. I just mean I can't live in that spot every single day. I love helping my coworkers, and I think we all have a lot to learn from each other. And you're right, like listening to big producers and how they talk to people, there's always something to learn for everybody. Success leaves clues. And on the flip side of that, you also might hear people that are really not doing your job, and you're like, yep, that's not the right thing at all. Don't need to do that.
Yeah. Well, one of the best things that I have learned in communicating, not only just in work, but literally in all of my relationships, is asking, do you have capacity for XYZ right now? Because, if I'm in my flow getting stuff done at work and somebody comes in and derails me to help them with something, it's not that I don't want to help them. That's one of my favorite parts of my job, is that I can help them. But then it takes me 10 minutes after that to even remember what I was doing and get back on track. And so if that person were to come to me instead and say, hey, I need your help quoting this or talking to this carrier, do you have the capacity for that right now? I would say, I don't right now, but, give me 30 minutes and then I'm all yours, because I want to be able to give you my full attention. And then it's better for both of us.
So
Totally.
just remembered I owe my stepsister on video because I told her I got to stay on my task. I'll do it tonight. As it didn't go on the calendar.
Well, that's the thing. If it's on your calendar, that was my friend Shivani was just talking about this the other day. She's like, who writes a to-do list that's like just monstrous and you have no idea how you're going to get it done? Like, if it can't fit in the calendar, if you can't schedule it in your calendar, stop committing to getting it done in a day. And I think that's a really good boundary I write a list every day, and I'm old school. I like to handwrite my list, and then I highlight everything that's on it, and then I number it. And part of the reason I number it is because then I don't have to think about what's next, because I have to wonder what I'm going to go to next. Guess what I do? I pick up my cell phone and I look, all of a sudden I've 2 hours later, I'm stuck in Instagram land or something. So I think knowing exactly what that next step is without having to think about it really creates boundaries around my time for it. But if I try to put too many things on there in a day, and if I don't leave space, that's probably the thing that I don't do well at all. I was going to say fail at. I don't know that I fail at it, but I'm not good at it. I don't leave space for new things to happen. And guess what? That's how my job works. I get random loan applications all the time in the middle of the day. And a lot of times it's a rush situation. So creating white space in your day to account for the things that are going to go wrong or the new things that are going to come in, I think is an important boundary too.
I used to teach Ninja Sally, I was listening to the actual book on Audible the other day, and he was saying how to structure your day, because most island real estate and most showings happen in the afternoon, not first thing in the morning. So your calls in the morning, leave space in there for the new home call, new lead, or the new showing request or new listing request. So it is good to leave space in your calendar for those things to come up.
And insider tip, we always talk a bit about AI because we love it. Mildly terrified of it too, but almost both of it. Exactly. Something that I have been using ChatGPT for a lot is I do exactly what Renee does, where I write out my whole schedule for the day, but then that can very easily overwhelm me, and I don't even know what to prioritize. And then looking at all the stuff that I have to get done and actually looking at my calendar can be a little bit intimidating. And so I have started putting that list into ChatGPT, and I will put approximately how long I think each thing is going to take in parentheses. And then I put stars next to it. And I basically just say, ChatGPT, this is everything that I need to get done today. If it has more stars, that is how important it is. More stars equals more importance. And I have put how much time I expect each thing to take. I need to get all of these done today, and I want you to schedule multiple breaks for me as well as lunch. And I need a space in case something comes up today. I try to kind of set all of the parameters for it.
Wow.
and it will perfectly type it all out for me where it says, 8 to 8:30 you're doing this, and 8:30 to 9 you're doing this, and it makes a full schedule. And on the days that I just am feeling like decision paralysis and like I just have too much of a mental load to be able to do that myself, that has helped me immensely. So hopefully that helps somebody else too.
Yeah, that may have helped me. That is a super impressive idea, and I am going to absolutely get that a try. I love it.
I'm actually taking a course on AI right now and which ones you can use to do certain things. And AI is going to make the world more efficient, or it's going to make people more lazy. And I know it has opened the door to more scammy things.
Sure, for sure.
It will be a good topic someday.
Yeah, I think there's pluses and minuses to that, of course, but this is the kind of stuff that you really can use it for to be in a better spot, I think.
Yeah. Going back to boundaries, I think really the most important thing in my mind is communication. Whether that is communicating to your manager how you like to receive feedback. Maybe you have had a few different meetings and they have provided feedback, which we have talked about in the past is so important. We love receiving feedback. But maybe they're giving it to you in a way that you aren't very receptive to, and it feels like you're being attacked instead of being productive and uplifting you. And so I think having some of those conversations with managers on how you like to receive feedback and what is going to make you a better employee can be really helpful for both of you, because maybe they don't know, maybe they're giving you feedback the way that they like to receive feedback, and that's just totally different.
That's an excellent point. And not only just from a manager, but from your team. Like, we had this conversation with my team last week because, there was some things that weren't going perfect and I was frustrated. And to her credit, Shelly sat me down and was like, you need to do better at telling us that we rocked it last month. And I was like, you know what? You are absolutely right. It was like the end of the month was crazy and the first week of the month was crazy. We had like $3 million closing in the first week. It didn't even feel like month end. I just blew right on past into the next thing instead of acknowledging like, hey, we crushed it last month. Great job. And forgetting that my teammates love words of affirmation and remembering, okay, I do need to celebrate these guys. They have great attitudes. They're crushing it for me. They are working so hard and they love these clients as much as I do. What the hell is wrong with me? Like, why am I not doing that?
Lila and I are very meat and potatoes.
Sure.
I have to remind myself to say nice things too instead of just moving on to the next task. Here I can be my own taskmaster and do it to other people. If that's amazing that
I was really impressed.
possible to tell you that.
She did. And she even like had Ryan's back because Ryan's new. And she's like, you need to snuggle Ryan better. He is new and he doesn't know. He doesn't like you yet. Like, he wants to love you, but he doesn't know that you love him yet. And you need to tell him. And I was like, thank you, Shelly.
Do you ever have like a your team little Zoom?
We do. Every Monday we do a pipeline review thing. But that's one of the things that came out of that conversation with her is I felt like, you know what? She's exactly right. I am very much all business on that. And like, we're in a hurry and we're cranking through stuff and we need the warm snuggly stuff too. Like, I take for granted that they know I'm super nice and that I care about them, and I can't take that.
On your little task list, if somebody does something good, just write it on there so when you have your little palo, you can highlight.
Right. And that's what we decided that, okay, we're going to start each day with wins, each of our pipe calls. Like, what are our wins from last week? What did we knock out of the park? Let's share client testimonials or the text that we got from clients or whatever it is. And I think that is really good. But I love that she built that boundary around like, hey, okay, enough. Like, you need to set smiley faces in your emails to us just a little bit more. Yeah. No, I loved it. And
we'll go read your Google review then.
The meteor episode today. At our office, we just implemented players only meetings. And this is something that I had my volleyball team do when I was coaching, where all of the team captains would host a meeting and just kind of do a check-in with everybody. How are we feeling? Is there anything that coach is doing that we're loving or hating? How is the team dynamic? Is there any drama? Are the systems and processes working? Just like really kind of getting into the nitty-gritty, because I think a lot of times, even if you're the most approachable boss of all time, you do not know what trauma your employees may or may not have around confrontation. I had talked about it on here before. I thought for so long that confrontation always led to conflict. And so I just wouldn't have conversations, even though it might have just been literally, hey, I think that you could improve on this. Oh, you're right. Thanks so much. End of conversation. You know, it doesn't have to be this big, scary thing.
Yeah.
So that's something that we implemented at my office, where I will lead a meeting with all of my coworkers, and then we'll kind of consolidate all of that information and present it to the partners. And there's never names tied to it. You know, the information is given to them anonymously, and they can do with that what they see fit. Sometimes it's everybody's feeling awesome. We love these new processes. Thank you guys so much for putting energy into that. Obviously, they love hearing that. They love getting that positive feedback. And sometimes it's, hey, we're really struggling with not knowing how to quote with this carrier, and so we're just avoiding it altogether. And then we'll have our next week's training on exactly that. So it's just, it has really helped everybody to be heard and to hear like they have a voice, or sorry, to feel like they have a voice.
That's such an important point about everybody feeling like they have a voice. I feel like a lot of times employers try to anticipate what their employees want. And my husband and I had this conversation. He owns a landscaping company, and so he has seasonal employees. And it's a challenge sometimes for him to keep employees long term. And that was the conversation we had one time. He kept trying to promote this one guy, and the guy was wanting to go somewhere else. I'm like, have you asked him what his goals are or what he actually wants? He was like, no. Well, it turns out the guy wanted advancement, but he didn't want to manage more employees. He wanted more responsibility, but it wasn't employees that he wanted to manage. So, but once they had that conversation, he kind of created a different position for him that worked out great. And now he's been super loyal and he stayed there, and it's not a question if he's going to stay around. So I think we try to guess what people need from us, and they should just be asking them. And sometimes it's simple as, you know, back to where we were saying, if somebody comes to you and they're grumpy or they have a problem, one of the things that I've learned to do is say, do you just need to vent, or do you want advice? Because a lot of times they don't actually want that advice. They just want to feel validated and they want to feel heard.
And that they're not wrong.
Yeah. Well, and going back to that story you just told too, if you are that employee that just, you know, you're seeking out new opportunities because you don't feel seen, if you haven't asked, you are part of the problem.
Right.
I do empower everybody to go have the conversation and say, hey, this is what I would love. You know, this is my dream. This is what I want to do, and I want to do it with your company. And then if you still aren't heard and they aren't willing to meet you in the middle, at least, then search for other opportunities. But I would say definitely, like, don't be afraid to make the ask.
Absolutely. I think that goes with every relationship, whether it's an employer, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your friend, whether it's your child. Asking for what you want, I think, is one of the most important skills that you can have. And I think that is something that creates a boundary as well.
Along those lines, have you ever had a situation in a business or company that you worked with where one of the employees or coworkers made decisions that negatively affected you, and how did you handle that?
I have worked at places where one person seems to have a lot more weight in their decisions than other people who I think should have had more of a say. And that one person was kind of out of alignment with the rest of the company. I do think that in my situation, that kind of ended up working itself out because, you know, if one person is kind of has a different culture than everybody else, they're not going to end up staying. And that's exactly what happened in my situation. That person kind of ended up pushing themselves out the door. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
I can't really think of something specific around that, but I do think, you know, if somebody isn't the right vibe fit, it usually does work itself out. Our biz to biz group is kind of like that. You know, we don't tolerate negativity. We don't tolerate drama. And for the most part, those people find out that we're not their people if that's what they're there for. But I think it also can be a situation where your employer, like, different topics just kind of should be off topic, like off limits. So I had, like, you know, politics, religion, that kind of a thing. Those things can go badly because not everybody, like, for me, I'm always fascinated why people think the way they do. No judgment as to what party you're in or whatever else. But I have had a situation where one of my first jobs out of college, my employer was extremely religious, and we were, you know, all out at dinner one night and we were having conversations around religion. And I kind of said, I'm spiritual, but not really religious. And he was like, well, if you don't go to church every single Sunday and you don't believe this, like you're going to hell. And I was like, wait, what? Like, are you telling me that if I am like this good person and I donate to charity and I help all these things and I believe in God, but I don't believe in it in your way, that's it? I'm just going to hell? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, but if I'm a murderer and I go to church and I believe that Jesus is my savior, then I'm not? And he was like, yeah. And I just thought, you know what? That is a different level for me. And it was like all the relationships was just different after that.
I've definitely had very opposing sides of political beliefs at several places that I've worked. And we did have to have a conversation around not having those conversations where our leadership was making a lot of assumptions and just kind of assuming that everybody believed the same thing that they did. And it was making a lot of people very uncomfortable, myself included. And myself and two of my coworkers went to them and basically just said, this is crossing a huge line and feels very intentional and disrespectful. And you're going to lose a lot of staff if this is how you're going to communicate to us. And he didn't even realize that he was doing that. He was, luckily for us, was very receptive, and we never had an issue again after that.
Well, kudos to you for speaking up. I mean, I think that is a good boundary. Like, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. Being able to say what you aren't comfortable with, I think is a huge boundary that everybody really needs to do. And there's a lot of different levels that can take, but I think it can be important, and especially when you're outside of the office. So I'm a big fan of getting together outside the office. We used to have safety meetings or accountability meetings, depending had different places. I know. These guys informed me that safety meetings used to be like 420 meetings, basically. I wasn't aware of this, but the guy that implemented this at one of the jobs I had, he was definitely an old hippie, so I didn't know. But we would like go hang out at the bar and just chill out, and everybody got to know each other, and it really built that camaraderie. At another mortgage company I worked at, we used to do accountability meetings where we would leave the office at 4 o'clock, and we would all get together at the bar. 4 o'clock, and we'd go have a beer, and then we'd write out like, hey, here's the things I want to be held accountable before the next week. So I think setting some specific times where you're going to tackle that stuff can be a really good way to help build those boundaries.
I've not really had any issues with religion or politics being part of the landscape in a company environment. It's the things that bother me the most are when people aren't honest or they are backstabbing. And in my industry, that is so prevalent.
Yes. Honesty is like my number one boundary. I have zero patience for people that are not honest. In fact, like we're watching the show Suits right now, and it's like driving me crazy because Mike just keeps lying. And I'm like, why doesn't he just stop freaking lying? Like it just stresses me out to watch it because I can't handle the lying. So that is a huge one for me. Like you don't get a lot of chances around me if you're not honest. I can't.
Yeah.
That's what I was referring to. It's so important to communicate your boundaries right up front.
And in an instance where something happens, even though it can be really hard, I think if you can call it out respectfully and professionally immediately, like in that example, if you know that somebody just told you a bold-faced lie, I think it's worth like having a closed door conversation with them right then and there. Hey, I just noticed that this happened, and just so you know, this is very much, a strong boundary of mine, and this cannot happen in this culture. I think that you can do that with coworkers, like not just if you are the manager, but if it's a coworker. I recently had a conversation with a coworker that was just a freaking negative Nancy and always gossiping and just always wanting to talk about negative drama that does not positively impact the work environment. And I was trying really hard to be a positive influence, and I was having, trying to re-steer the conversation in different directions, or say, okay, but how about this thing that has just been implemented? This is fixing the problem that you're talking about. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, like you said earlier, this person is just looking to bitch. They're not actually looking for solutions. And so I ended up taking this person out to lunch and just said, hey, you are an energy vampire to me right now. And I really want us to be able to have a great relationship at work, and I've been feeling really resentful. And this isn't fully on you because I haven't fully communicated this to you, but I needed to, get this all off my chest and make sure that we can clear the air between us and know the expectations going forward. She was not respectful and said that she was being attacked, and she left the company about a month and a half after that. So like we just said, hopefully those things end up kind of working themselves out. But I was proud that I had the difficult conversation, and should be. I think that if you are in a workplace and you feel like you're constantly having to have difficult conversations and you don't have leadership that is having any of these difficult conversations and nobody's trying to establish or respect boundaries, those should all be pretty red flags for you that maybe it's not the best work environment for you. And I think it's okay to leave a place like that.
I don't hesitate to bring it up. And the person had left, but they came back.
No.
I wanted to figure out, I'll just keep my own boundaries and just not engage with them anymore because I got burned before.
Well, and that is a thing. I think that's a good topic too. So I had a friend that was one of my best friends a couple years ago, and it was somebody that was in my biz to biz group, and like she just was super negative, and she wasn't showing up, and she was in a leadership role, and she wasn't taking any responsibility, and all of a sudden she just like ghosted the group. And she knew that I had some struggles with friends not treating me well in the past, and that my trust had been kind of broken. And for her to just ghost me, like, I spent months wondering if I had done something that made her leave this group or what happened. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I got an email from her last week, and I was like, and it was in my Gmail, which I don't check, by the way. And so it was a miracle I even saw it. And she was like, hey, I miss our friendship, blah, blah, blah. And then finally, like, told me the reason that she had left and all of this stuff. And it had nothing to do with me, but it was all stuff that should have been brought to my attention as part of that leadership group. And anyway, I was like, I'm glad you're doing better. I was really hurt by the whole situation, but wish you all the best, blah, blah, blah. And then she responded again and was like, hey, I would like to get together. And I didn't know what to think. And I honestly said, I'll think about it. And I haven't responded again. And I've been really torn about this because part of me took me a long time. I mean, obviously I'm not giving all the details of the situation, but I was devastated by this situation at the time and really broken up by it for months. And the fact that I'm beyond it now and I've moved on, I don't want to drag it all back up. And this person has been toxic and kind of negative in the past. And, what do you guys think around that boundary? Like, do you let someone back in? Do you give them another chance, or
with the boundaries again? The question depends on the situation. I've definitely had to cut ties with past friends that I have to be so careful because I'm an empath. I'm super sensitive. I want to help everybody. And sometimes I just can't, where that's not going to be my role. So I have to be really careful. And some I would not become friends again or engage with, and others I might give them another chance to maybe just hear them out and then decide after you hear them out. Yeah.
Well, in a situation like that is so hard because you were friends before you were business colleagues, right? Like you were, yes, you were great friends, and then we're in this biz to biz group and we're in leadership together and trying to navigate having this business relationship and your friendship. And I feel like the boundary that she crossed was she fully put your friendship aside and was looking at it like it was just a business transaction, which obviously is so hurtful because you're like, okay, hold on. As your friend, you should have come to me with these things just because, like, I want to be able to have your back. And by you not coming to me and instead, just ghosting and leaving the group and kind of going about it in a weird way, it makes you feel like your friendship isn't important. I think I've had a couple of scenarios like that where I ended up losing a friendship because we had a really hard time working together. And I think that it might be worth having a conversation with her and just leading with curiosity. Just asking a lot of questions. And I mean, obviously, I don't know the whole situation, but I have done this with friendships that I lost and came back to later and went and got lunch and just kind of asked a lot of questions and tried to lead with a lot of I statements, I felt like this instead of, well, you did this to me. And
Yeah.
I didn't end up ever reconnecting with them after those lunches because I realized that they hadn't changed or grown or taken any accountability, and it was just
They can give you closure too.
exactly. And yeah,
But that trauma is a bit you've already done has made you healthier around the whole topic and the relationship. And then you can hear them out. Maybe there's some whole other side that you didn't know about at all. Yeah, because I've actually had that happen too. Or, yeah, they are that way. And you can say, this relationship doesn't work for me anymore. I'm glad that we met and good luck.
yeah. And I think as that person, like, had she gone to Renee and said, I am going through it right now, I'm having a really hard time, I'm gonna leave the group, just wanted to give you a heads up, I'm sure your relationship would look very different today.
Totally.
And so I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind if you are maybe your manager is a friend of yours. Maybe the owner of your company is a good friend. Maybe you're having a tough time with a coworker who is a good friend of yours.
Or you work with his spouse.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the communication piece is so important, even though it can be scary and vulnerable and doesn't feel good and is icky. Avoiding it does not help the problem.
You're right. And I think it's communication is what it always comes down to. So I'm going to flip the script a little bit here. And what about if you're the customer? So I've had a couple of situations. So apparently this is just a thing about me that people just talk to me and they tell me all their problems and like happy to do that. But I've had this happen to me with
Mortgage lender / therapist.
for real. Like it's kind of the same. I feel like if you're letting me in, I see all your finances. You might as well let me in the rest of your world. But even like managers I've had, they've always told me more than they should tell me about what's going on and all the things. But so I've had a couple of different people, mostly in a workout environment where like a one-on-one personal training situation where it would turn into where I would show up and we would start this workout for like 2 minutes. And then it would turn into this like whole on conversation where maybe me being their counselor. And I would then pay them $65 for a session where I just sat there and listened to them talk. And I brought this up. Actually, this has happened to me with 2 separate trainers. One of which is the reason I brought this up is one of them is that's how I originally met that friend was in a business situation where she was my personal trainer. And I brought it up multiple times. Like, I can't pay you $65 an hour to be my friend. Like I have to be able to do this. And so I think as customers, sometimes we have to do that. And I'm still not great at this. I'll be honest. I went and got my nails done last week and the gal did a terrible job and I didn't say anything and I overtipped her. I just like sometimes it's just too much and I just can't. But I think that's another business relationship where there has to be some boundaries about what is it that you put up with? What is it where you stand up for yourself? And at what point, like, do you just peace out? You're like, okay, I'm not doing it.
How do I have no nails?
I honestly, in situations like that, it might be worth just getting a different trainer and then continuing the friendship. It like obvious because she's she's just talking to you for a reason, but yeah, it looks like you're just gonna have to have a new trainer every month. I don't know.
And now I do group classes because that doesn't work. Can't be in for right. You're beautiful. So, well, I guess this is a good time to kind of just wrap up here. And so I think everybody had different boundaries around workplaces. And I think most people do struggle with some sort of issues of where somebody's coming up and being a time suck on their day. And if you're not, maybe you're the time suck. So being time is bad. Maybe you're the negative one, or maybe you're the one that's taking other people's time. So just something to ponder. But I think it's good conversation. Communication obviously is key no matter what we're talking about. We're going to talk on our next episode. We're going to talk about buying versus renting. And this is not going to be what you think. You've got a realtor and a mortgage lender here. We're not just going to tell you renting is stupid. You should buy. We're going to explore both sides of that. So tune in for that. Again, please like, subscribe, give us reviews, share this so that we can help as many people as we can.
And if you want us to cover a topic, let us know that too.
Here's to empowering one another, one story at a time.